Hello, good evening, and welcome to the October edition of Freedom Friday. I am Sarita Price, your coach who is skilling you softly. Listen, I am so excited tonight about our conversation that I'm having with none other than Miss Kimberly Cleveland. We're going to finish what we started back in, I think it was August. Actually, I was a guest for her, the Good Thing Guru, on an IG Live, and we talked about soft skills, relationship building, and that conversation was so good. I was like, Kimberly, we have to continue this on. So that's why I decided to have her on as my guest for tonight. And we're going to finish it on, and we're going to add a little twist. We're going to talk about relationship building. It's part two, but we're going to talk about dating in your 50s. So, guys, it's going to be juicy. I mean, it's going to be really, really good. But before I bring Kimberly in, I want to introduce you to her. She is such a sweet spirit, and I love Kimberly. She's my soul wealth sister. So, Kimberly Cleveland, also known as the Good Thing Guru, and you're going to see why she's called that once we get into the conversation. She actually helps single women become wives, become and wives to be that good thing, which that is based on the scripture for Proverbs 18 and 22, which says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. She is a certified master life coach, relationship expert, international speaker, a number one best selling author. She is the owner of the travel company called Lux Life Ventures. She's an award-winning TV show producer, event producer, and mother. She has been featured, check this out, in Swag Her magazine, Glambitious magazine, the I Am Dr. Sharon radio show, Cheryl Woods Impact the World radio show, and the new Empower Woman radio show. Kimberly has been a wife and experiencing the pain of divorce, so she knows what to do and what not to do. She has spent 20 years, over 20 years studying, teaching, mentoring, and coaching on the keys to marital success. Not so long ago, she took a leap of faith and found purpose through her pain and passion and created the Wife University, which is awesome, by the way, and launched Becoming That Good Thing. She specializes in compassionate, heartfelt, and powerful personal development. Kimberly encourages women to start with a healthy love of self and to heal from the pain from their past. She also equips them to be them with a strong spiritual foundation of the divine design for marriage and provides them with the necessary steps to develop positive change in themselves first and their relationships so they can have marital success. For those single women who are looking to get married, she provides them with the tools and the strategies needed to prepare for marriage and become amazing wives. She supports wives through the difficulties that they face in their marriage and challenge them to always take their wife skills to the next level. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce and bring in Miss Kimberly Cleveland. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, so excited to be here. Thank you.
I am excited to be here as well. Listen, I'm excited about finishing this conversation that we started back in August. I got a lot good, excellent feedback from the conversation. So I was like, I knew then that actually have to have another
Yeah.
conversation. So yeah. So Kimberly, one thing before we get into the conversation, I read your bio, which is phenomenal, but can you kind of speak exactly what the Wife University, kind of like your journey, and it sounds good coming from me reading, but I just wanted you to tell the ladies and the men who are watching
Yes,
exactly what the Wife University is, how you got started and everything.
absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. As you said so eloquently, this was birthed out of my pain and out of my passion. I've always been passionate about becoming a wife, right, and becoming a mother. I knew I wanted and desired that prior to me even knowing what I wanted to do in my educational path and my career path. I knew I wanted to be a wife. I had great example. My grandparents were married for over 60 years. They had 7 children. And so my grandparents raised me for the first 6 years of my life. So that kind of set the foundation for me. I wanted to be just like my grandmother. But unfortunately, as the bio depicted, I went through the pain of divorce. And so that's why I say it was birthed out of my passion, but it was also birthed out of my pain. And so I went on a journey to try to discover what did God have in mind when he created this system we call marriage, right? Because I knew with so many people going through marital challenges, with so many people going through divorce, it had to be something that we were doing. It was not because what the creator had created was defaulty or that it wasn't good. It was because of something that we were doing where we were not having success, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I didn't want anyone else to go through the pain that I went through, right? And scripture clearly said, older women train up the younger women. Now, Sarita, I know we don't look like we're in our 50s, right? We look like we're like about 38 is what I like to claim. But again, I had to share my wisdom that God had shared with me because after the pain of that second divorce, I was intentional and very focused on trying to discover what did God have in mind, right? And I spent years just digging in deep so that I could just discover what he meant because I still believe that marriage is for me. I still believe that my Boaz is out there, right? And so as I was going through this process, and God just revealed to me, okay, I think you got the keys now. Now go share it with someone else. And of course, I had my Moses moment when I was like, who, me? No one's going to want to listen to me. And he was like, yeah, you've gone through it. So you can talk from your experiences. You've got some experiences behind that intellectual knowledge. And so go out and teach. And so that's when I endeavored to create the Wife University, which again, I've created a curriculum. I coach single women on setting a strong foundation for marriage so that they can become amazing wives. I've got master classes. I'm really excited about what's coming forth in 2024. And I've been doing this now, my private coaching, group coaching, for over probably 5 years now.
Wow.
So just to see the ladies who come through my programs, I've got an elite group who have been with me for 3 years, and I've got that Good Thing exclusive. And I do 2 cohorts now a year where I take them through a 5-month process to really, like I said, set a strong foundation to help them go into marriage with some skills and tools that I just didn't have.
And that's key, to give to be able to be that source to give them what you didn't have. That's when that it's a passion, and just your whole being is very authentic, and I can tell you do have a passion for this. And I just want to know, as far as, can you share any success story? Have women actually become marriage engaged in marriage? Just
I do have one young lady who has gone on and gotten married. I have another young lady who is in this new quarter of mine who's engaged, and she is getting married on October the 21st. So yes, and then I would say the testament is that elite group. Those women have been with me for 3 years. And for them to have been with me for 3 years, I think says something that they are really getting what they need. And a lot of times women come in and they want and they desire marriage and they're dating. But after they get in and we get into that self-love you talked about, they really kind of put a pause on the dating because they're like, wait a minute, I've got work that I need to do, and I need to be focused on me, and they're doing that self development work that you mentioned. And so that has been my greatest testimony, that each year it kind of was like, please, 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 we want to stay, we want to keep growing. And so with that group, I really go in deep and we really get into the nitty gritty of right where they are and just helping them to transform and get to the next level.
And that was excellent, because that kind of segued right into my next question I was going to talk about. When I read in your bio, you said you encourage women to start with a healthy love of self and to heal from the pain from the past.
Yes.
I think we kind of, I don't know if we talked about it before, but one thing that I had to learn, and other women, single women been around, we try to date too soon.
Mhm.
And you have the baggage, you have those other things, but people don't realize you have to deal with self first,
Yes.
self-awareness, as well as another thing too. You hear people make this statement, and I know it's one of those cliches, oh, he makes me whole. And
Mm,
I'm like, oh no, you need to be whole first
right.
before you go into a relationship. So from that, kind of talk a little bit about how you help women as far as to develop that love of self.
Absolutely. I think one of the critical things that we do is create healthy boundaries, right? And it doesn't have to even be romantic boundaries, it's just good personal self boundaries.
Hmm.
We talk a lot too, you talked about that baggage, right? We
Hmm.
have to be able to take a look in the mirror and say, what have I suppressed? What have I swept under the rug? Because it keeps showing up in my relationships. And so we talk about that. We talk about those things. Again, I create a safe space for women to be able to come into, a non judgmental space so that they can be authentic and they can be vulnerable and get the real support that they need. A lot of times, Sarita, we don't get the support that we need because we don't feel like we can be vulnerable and be authentic. We feel like we're going to be judged, right, for those past mistakes or the things that we've gone through. So that's critical. And in doing that, women oftentimes says, "Wow, it's not just me. Someone else has experienced this too, or who someone else has gone through something similar." And it really creates that sisterhood, that safe sisterhood, to be able to deal with these pains of the past and really dig into that. Hey, I think I might have self-esteem issues, which is why I'm picking the wrong partners, right? Or the wrong people to link up with. I think I have self-worth issues and I need to work on that, because until I love myself, how can I expect someone else to love me? Or until I know how to love myself, I'm also setting the standard for how I want to be loved in this relationship. So absolutely, we do that work and take an honest look in the mirror about where exactly am I in my self-love and my self-value and my self-worth.
Yes, and that is very important. I think, like you stated, many times, it's two things I kind of thought about when you said that. One is being vulnerable, being really self-aware, and being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
We you because the way I have become is I look at myself first,
Mhm.
and and then we stop. Have you healed? Are you ready to go to the next level or whatever? Because I actually posted something today in one of my newsletter. It says sometimes the most toxic relationship you can have is with yourself.
Oh, absolutely. We
And
get into that
it
negative belly.
yeah, I mean that is the most toxic relationship, because
Yeah.
if you have that toxicity with yourself, it's going
Mhm.
to actually, in every relationship, no matter romantic or not.
So true.
Yeah. So, and the second thing is being around a group of women that are on that path, on one accord, where you're building each other up, right?
Yes.
and you have that space, and those spaces are hard to come by, because many times if you do, even if it could be your best friend, you're either you're still hurt, you're still bitter, men are no good. Or even if it's men, they may feel the same thing way about women. But it is so important to find that space to work
Yeah.
on yourself, where there is no judgment, where there's no, so that is crucial. And many,
And you
many
said,
times, I'm sure you kind of segue into, what we're talking about. You have, the younger women, like you stated, you probably coach, but you still have some women in their 40s and 50s.
I do. I
Yeah. So
do.
let's kind of talk about that.
Yeah. I want to go back to one thing you pointed out, Sarita, which is so true. It's important that we create these environments because, like you said, your best friend may not have gone through what you went through. So they
Exactly.
can't relate like someone else who may have gone through what you went through. Plus, again, they're really close to you. And sometimes it's harder because you're so afraid that they might judge you or they might think less of you. Again, you don't necessarily have that in a support group with people who are on the same journey that you're on, that are desiring the same thing that you're desiring, and who have committed themselves to be vulnerable, to, like you said, we are going to link up arm in arm together and then help each other.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to comment on. But yeah, I am super excited. In my last cohort and in this cohort, I have someone else who is exactly my age, never been married, no kids. She is has her doctorate degree, and she still has hope and is like, I want to be married. I want to be on this journey of becoming that good thing. I want to be prepared. And I was like, oh, so excited to have her in our midst. And so it's just been a wonderful, wonderful journey. And just to see her enthusiasm, I give weekly growth challenges. She's always the first to send hers in. And so it's just really awesome to know that there are women who still have hope, right? Who recognize that they need help, right? And even in their 40s and 50s, because as you know, we're marrying later, that they're taking up this mantle and they're being intentional. So, yes, even in the 40s and 50s, and if you're on any kind of social media, you'll see that there's people in their 50s and 60s getting married for the first time, even.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely I actually saw, I think it was on IG, I saw this video. It was a reel. This lady, she was mid to late 50s, never been married, and finally got married for the first time. And she was so excited. I mean, she had the whole the wedding, the
Yeah.
everything. And I was like, wow, so it's never too late.
Never too late.
Um But one thing I want to ask you, for those who are looking at this, who are in their 40s or 50s, and so what are you seeing, Kimberly, are some of the challenges for the age group of dating versus someone that's younger?
Oh, yes. It's the dating game is not the same when we were in our 20s,
Oh
right?
Lord, it's
So
not.
you and I can relate. It is totally different. When we were in our 20s, our friends would recommend people. We were out, we were enjoying life. We didn't necessarily have the pressures of a career or have children. And so we were out in spaces and we were a little bit freer in dating. Now the dating game is totally different. People don't go outside their house. They're dating online. They think that their partner is going to be hand delivered and dropped off at the doorstep. Also in our 50s, we have kind of been, I hate to say it, set in our ways. And so I have to shift their mindsets of, wait a minute, now you're saying that you want a relationship, you're saying that you want a partner, you're going to have to be a little bit more flexible. I know you're used to doing all this on your own, but the dynamics are getting ready to switch here. And I said, so I need you to have a shift in mindset. So I think at 50, that's also the other thing. We've gotten caught up into our patterns. And so we have to learn, which is why it's so great that she's in this group and doing the work. Because again, she can now go back and try to make that shift, right? And open herself up and go about things a little bit differently.
Hmm. Definitely so. I mean, like you said, dating in your 50s compared to it is so, we talked about it is so different.
Hmm.
Um, but the thing is going back to working on your health, being your healthy self.
Yes.
One thing from my experience is, for me, at this stage in my life, it's a little, I don't know, for me, I can't say for, it's a little bit easier because you know
Yes.
what you
There are some
want.
positives.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
you
a
know what
positive.
you want.
Yes.
All women can't say, but I mean my insecure, I don't have insecurities like I did when I was in my 20s. You know
Hmm.
what you want, it's give and take. Like I said, I've been married before, divorced, went through all that. So you have to give and take in a relationship, but also
Hmm.
too, we have wisdom,
Yes.
so we should know
Right.
if something, red flags, you know. And I always say, don't be in such a position where where you are, I hate to use the word thirsty, but I mean, I guess that's a good word to use, how I can describe it.
Right.
You just don't settle for anything. Like, especially if you've never been married and you're in 50s and you feel like, no, but at that stage, we have a little bit more wisdom and knowledge and to know, and not having to deal with insecurities. So
Right.
you just kind of elaborate a little bit of that, some tips as far as dating 50s or what have you.
Absolutely. Well, all those things you said are true, that they could be positives. But let me flip the script. You could still be in your 50s and not, again, still be thirsty, right? Because now you're 50 and you see that clock ticking. And, when we get 50, we start to look over the hill, start to look down that hill, right? And so sometimes it can be scary. Sometimes
Hmm.
you can turn 50 or in your late 40s and feel like the clock is running out. And so you do feel um, thirsty, so to say. Um, and I've heard one of my other relationship coaches, Tara Gates, say it's okay to be thirsty. You just don't want to be famished. Famished is when you get desperate,
Yeah.
right? Okay to be thirsty. Like, I've been without water for a while. I've been without companionship for a while. I just don't want to be in a state of desperation so that I lower my standards, like you said. And sometimes we do have more wisdom and experiences to draw upon because we just have more life behind us now.
Hmm.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that we know what to do when we're talking about becoming a wife or in dating, right? Because, like I said, we, just like myself, I was not purposely trained to be a wife. I watched outside experiences like my grandparents. I watched my parents who unfortunately went through divorce. So I'm watching from the outside, right? But I don't necessarily know what's going on in closed doors. I may not even be able to translate correctly what I'm observing.
Hmm.
And oftentimes I found even in our 50s, we've developed bad habits, right? So, which is why it's good that you have a coach that can kind of help prompt you and find those challenging areas that you need to work on, right? And even in our 50s, we've got to unlearn some stuff. You know what I mean? We've got to, because sometimes all the knowledge and experience that we have been getting is misinformation or bad information. And so,
Hmm.
um, yeah. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, there are some positive things, absolutely, but those things aren't necessarily 100%. So when we talk about dating in our 50s and what is that like, you brought that up. I can only speak for me and maybe the ladies in my close proximity who are in the same age as me, I think one of the common things I hear is that, men still, even in their 50s, getting into what you talk about, soft skills, they don't listen, right? You're dating, you're on these online apps, you might be texting, maybe after the first encounter, you've given your phone number. And it's like, even in the first two, three phone conversations, they talk about themselves. They never once really get into or ask questions that make you feel like they really want to get to know you.
Mhm.
You know, it's all about their job and their house and their car and, the things that they're doing on the side. That's one of the things I think, the challenges dating in your 50. The other thing is, again, talking about relationship building. And like I said, in our 50s, and we've kind of already mentioned it. One of the soft skills is just being able to have that emotional intelligence,
Yes.
right? That is not even a given in our 50s. And I always say, I want a man who can minister to me emotionally, which means he's taken the time to discover the makeup of a woman and who she is, right? And more specifically, has taken the time to learn of me. Because even though I'm a woman, God created me very uniquely. And so I want you to take enough time to study me so you can know me, right? And so I think, again, most men kind of think they already know women. And again, this is not men bashing because women do it too.
Hmm.
Women say, okay, we know men are different, but how are they different? Have you studied it? Right? Do you expect your man to act like he's your girlfriend? Because he's not, right? And so the better we can intrinsically take the time to be attentive, to communicate, to listen, right? And then act with emotional intelligence, then the better our relationships will be.
Yes, so true. And as I stated on in the last when we had the live, there are different components of emotional intelligence. And the first one you talk about is being self-aware, knowing thyself.
Yeah.
Being self-aware is key. I've always been told. I'm the kind of I've always observed, and I look at myself first. What am I doing? Um, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What am I bringing to the table? What have you? And then that part, as far as I think maybe some men may struggle with, is one of the components of emotional intelligence is being empathetic,
Yes. That part.
because by nature women, we are more emotional beings,
Mm-hmm.
as far as men are. But being empathetic, and like you said, it's just like I mentioned before, getting to know each other. Not You can't put all women in one basket, and you can't put all men. We are all
Exactly.
designed differently, even though
Yeah.
we have some of the women have some of the similar characteristics like men have. They have, but that doesn't mean that all women are a certain way or all men are a certain way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that is very important, is just really just to get to know the person. I
Mm-hmm.
think many times, especially in dating, um, we're excited. It's fun in the beginning, you know, but you need to really, as my friend said, get to know the person in different seasons.
Yes. That's huge. Yeah, I say that all the time.
Yeah, you have to know they may act one way this month, next may, you never know. What life situations may happen, and you can determine how they handle it. Because I
Yes.
always heard this. It was this quote. I can't remember. It was quote. It's like, um, 90% of, only 10% of life is what happens to you. The other 90 is how you handle it.
Yes. Yes.
So they
Exactly.
kind, yeah, that kind of happened to me. certain situations came back, and I'm like, oh my God, if you're acting this way in this situation, it was a kind of ordeal. It's like, well, how are you going to act if something else worse come about and you can't
Yes.
deal with that, so yeah.
As they say now, when life is lifing, how do you
Exactly.
respond? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and life is going to life is going to happen. And that lets you, that goes into another. I was talking about seeing people in different seasons, how they're going to handle it. Life is going to happen. Nothing is going to be perfect, no matter how we may want it to be.
mm-hmm.
So how are you going to deal with it? And I think that too, that comes with some levels of maturity,
Yes.
um, as well. So what we kind of talked about this briefly. So Kimberly, how have you had women talk about, or maybe in their 50s, or maybe dating, but they're dating someone younger, or what have you? Have you had that, or
So, I have not had specifically any real big age gaps as of
okay,
yet, in my cohorts specifically. But I do find, that, now women are dating a lot younger. It used to be just men, right? That you would see maybe a 50-year-old dating a 20 something, a 30 something. But I'm seeing it more and more. And I think that's because women have waited later, right, to get married. They've gone on to pursue their career success. They've gone on to get the house and have that luxury car, and so they built a life for themselves, right? And they're not done living yet. And so they want someone with a little bit more energy, right?
hmm,
And so, yeah, I am definitely seeing that more and more.
okay. I saw this. I was on something in social media. It was kind of, it was comical. I just saw this. He looked like he was in his 30s. Talk about the women now who were born in the 60s and the 70s. They don't look like the
Right?
grandmothers. Like,
They
he was like,
don't.
oh my God.
Right? You wouldn't be able to decipher the mother, grandmother, and the daughter, right? They look like they're sisters, and that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
It is, to me, it's just because I mean I'm a 70s baby. It's just, I think with our generation, we are, many of us have learned how to take care of self,
Hmm.
and take care of, just not mentally but physically as well,
Yes.
and just the energy. And no, we're not going to sit at home and just,
Right.
life is going to life, but we're going to keep pushing through it and keep it moving.
Yes. Yes. And we want to live life to the fullest.
Exactly.
We want to maximize. Once you hit 50, you want to maximize the time that you have left. Like you said, you're not sweating the small stuff.
No.
Yeah. So I'm loving my 50s. I'm loving my 50s. I turned
Listen.
52 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember you were saying your birthday was coming up. Yes, girl, like I said, honey, you don't look like you're 50. We
Well, thank you.
All right, listen, look, we've been on, this is always a great conversation. So we're
Yes.
gonna, but any before we wrap up, Kimberly, anything last words you want to hit us with?
I want to really impress upon the ladies who really want to be married, to definitely do that self development work, to go back and examine the pain of the past. And, I know people say, well, you'll never be fully healed, right? We're always going to be healing, because life is going to be lifing. But there are some things, if you go back and look at your past relationships, right? And I always tell them, go back and look at your past relationships. There's something there for you to learn. And I know you probably have suppressed, or like I said, swept some things under the rug. That's the stuff that you need to deal with, because you know it. You know it's there. And sometimes we think just because some time has passed, and we say we're healed just because some time has passed. But we'll soon find out when we jump into that next relationship, even if it's a year later, even if it's 2 years later, we'll get triggered by something. And like you said, how we respond to that trigger now will reveal if we have been healed or whether we've just been passing time. And so I say, do the work. As you keep evolving, as you keep growing, you'll magnetize to you the person that you desire. But you've got, in order to attract a new level of being, you've got to become a new level of being. So just keep becoming, keep doing the work.
Oh, that was so good. Yes, keep becoming. And that is crucial because don't be true enough. You have to be somewhere to be found. But continue to do the work that you God designed you to do.
Yes.
And like you said, it would happen. Whatever energy you put out, you'll bring it back to you. You'll find that person that is meant exactly for you. So that is real good. Kimberly, what is the best way for someone as they want to maybe to reach and get in contact with you? I'm going to put, this is your website, right?
Yes,
make sure I have
thewifeuniversity.com is my website. You can find me on Facebook and on Instagram at Becoming That Good Thing. And then also, if you're interested in my travel business, please go to Instagram at Lux Life Ventures, and you can find me there on Instagram. And if you're interested in my coaching, feel free to email me. It's thewifeuniversity@gmail.com.
Awesome. Listen, y'all need to get see Kimberly's IG page. Every time you turn around, she's in some other country. I know. Look, are your passport, you about to run out of stamps for your passport?
That's the goal. I want to be able to say, I need more pages. That's the goal. That's the goal.
All right. Listen, this has been an awesome conversation. I actually, when I sent a newsletter out, I put the link, but guys, go back to either Kimberly's page or my page back. I think it was August 18th, and look at the original conversation you had, and look at this one. It is so many awesome nuggets in there as well. So look, this is good. We can almost have a part 3, but I think we're going to stop this one.
Hey,
this is good.
We will come.
Exactly. Okay, so this is just to let you know what's going on with the Skilling You Softly experience. Actually, guys, I have a webinar coming up on the end of the month. The registration link will be available soon. So this is something, you have all these entrepreneur webinars and how to do this. No one ever talks about how to transition from an employee to an entrepreneur. So this is a webinar. I'm so excited about this. It's actually going to be October the 30th. And registration link, I'll post it very soon on my website, on my social media platforms. Guys, listen, I'm basically almost giving this away. It's only $25. Come on. And it's like a $200 value. So you want, as soon as I'll have everything soon, probably by this weekend, you want to take this, especially if someone is tired of their job and they're getting frustrated. Now is the time to start. I'm going to give you a lot of resources, a lot of tips on how to transition from an employee to an entrepreneur. So stay tuned for that as well. That is coming up very soon. Okay, as always, let's keep in touch. This is my information, my website, and my email address. And you can reach me on most all social media platforms. This is actually streaming from my YouTube channel tonight. Okay, and as always, thank you guys for your support. And I always say, protect your peace, so when needed, your peace can protect you. Kimberly, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And I so enjoyed this conversation. And we'll see you guys. Everyone have an amazing weekend, and I will see you next time. Good night.